Hi, this is Erica Norton, and I'm the founder of Perfect Legal Video. I'm very excited to have with us today Attorney Nicole Reeves Lavallee. She has a real estate and family law firm in the Worcester area. She and her team are fantastic, and we are very happy to have her with us almost every week, giving us tips on how to handle different court situations in her specialties. Today, we're going to be focusing on real estate because the spring market is upon us, and we are going to talk about the mistakes that people make uh, because they're lazy and they don't do things right the first time. And then when they try to sell their house, there's a lot of things that may bite you in the butt. So, welcome to the show today, Nicole. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
You are welcome. Now, when we were talking about this in the beginning of our discussion, you talked about a lot of things that people maybe ignore when they're buying a house and things are hunky-dory and so they let things slip and then, oh my gosh, all of a sudden they're trying to sell their house and there are a myriad of things that will hold them up that they didn't take care of before. And I think one of the things you were talking about were things that have to do with the title.
Absolutely. I mean, it's usually one of those things that you do when you're purchasing as a cash buyer because your lender's not going to let you get away with a lot of this stuff. But, when it comes across is you have issues when you're selling the house and lo and behold, you didn't purchase title insurance. Or better yet, you didn't even order a title. First and foremost, you have to order title. You have to do a title exam. You have to have that document that's going to show that you have clear and marketable title. If you don't have that, then really, why are you purchasing? It's your largest purchase. You need to take the time to do an evaluation, to do an examination, and then ultimately to get that insurance. Because if you don't have that insurance, it could result in me actually owning your property, not you. And now I'm ousting you because you're on my property illegally.
Ugh, that would be terrible. I guess when you're going to sell, you're going to buy a property. I mean, I would think that you have title insurance. Would that keep something like you depicted from happening?
It absolutely would, or at least give you coverage to defend it. So, what happens with title insurance, just like a car insurance when you get a car accident, that ultimately pays for damages. And it could obviously pay for even death when you're in a car accident, right? Same type of thing. What it's going to do is help you with your insurance and say, hey, no, no, she's got title insurance. We are going to back her up. We are going to cover it. So if you do lose the house, and chances are you won't, but if you do lose the house, they're going to basically pay you that money back. So you have a guarantee, if you will, that you're going to at least be able to have this policy and have this property and live there without any issues.
I mean, and that's peace of mind. But I guess if you're trying to buy the property with cash and, maybe you don't use a lawyer that's supposed to tell you these things, and this is a great time for me to say, if you have any questions or real estate dealings that you're going through right now, please call Nicole if you are in the Worcester area or further. I mean, hey, she helped me out and I was in Canton, so that's not that close. But she and her team are fantastic and they can give you a list of things to watch out for, like we're talking about today. So thank you for that, Nicole.
Anytime. And that's just one of the issues that comes across when you have no attorneys or no brokers or nobody, and you're just doing it all yourself because, I got a handshake from my buddy over here and he's not out to screw me.
Or a
Hmm,
family member, or yeah, like there's a whole bunch of stuff, isn't there?
absolutely. And that's the stuff that comes up. And unfortunately, people don't realize it until they come to me a couple months later, a couple years later and go, hey, I just got this notice or I got this document and I don't understand it. Can you explain it to me? And the first thing I say is, okay, great. Show me all of your closing documents. What? I paid, 300,000 for the house and I got the property. I don't understand. I got a deed. And I just go, what? And this is what's happening is people are doing this because cash is better. No, cash is only better if you have an attorney on your side.
Oh my gosh, I had no idea you could even do that. I I'm so spoiled to have you that like I just get calls from you on what I need and we just sold my house last week. I will share this and things kept coming up and sometimes you would say from the other side, sometimes you would say, hey, that seems wrong. And even now we've closed on the property and we have an issue with my old mortgage company still trying to charge me almost 3 grand for we don't know what because we had a closing statement and we had the payoff amount and everything that was signed off by the bank. And so that's something that uh, your office is helping me research to try to get that right. And that's after the thing's done. I cannot imagine all the mistakes that are happening if you're trying to do this yourself as a cash buyer, or maybe you're dealing with a friend or family. What is something else that we should look out for if we're working without expertise?
You should also have a plot plan done. And that's your question as to whether or not you want to do a plot plan or a survey. That's your choice, but at least do one of them. A plot plan is going to show you exactly where your house is in relationship to the street and to your neighbors. It's going to show where the shed is and the garage and the deck and all those other things. So if you have other buildings on it, it's going to be very helpful. If you don't have buildings, then my suggestion is always going to be do an actual survey so you know where your boundary lines are. I had somebody come in the other day, and lo and behold, they purchased a property of land and they realized somebody's septic is on their property. Oh, by the way, the neighbor's driveway is also on their property too. So now we have to address those issues. So these things come up, and if you had a survey done or a plot plan, you would have known that. And the reality is, he didn't know that until lo and behold, he had a survey because he wants to build something on the property, and he went, oh, well, that's a problem. And, sometimes you get good neighbors and they're like, yeah, we're willing to work with you. And sometimes you have crappy neighbors. And unfortunately, you don't know which one you're going to get until you're in that situation. And now you have to address it.
And I bet you could write a book about those kinds of situations with the plots because I know like I had a driveway that was going through to my neighbors, but it was easement. It was in there forever and you could tell it was there. And that was fine, but I know when they were trying to build a house behind there, uh one of my neighbors was like trying to get the whole neighborhood to stop them from building. And like that they wanted to stop because of the driveway that went through my property. I guess that's how they ended up doing it, so that that house would have a driveway that went onto another street. And it gets crazy with all the people that get involved
And
and the
that's
drama.
that's exactly the situation because, if you have an easement, sometimes it's in the deed and sometimes it's a separate document that's just marginal reference to your property. And so you, again, as a title examiner or somebody that's doing it, that's what they're looking for. A lot of times you're like, but I purchased a property from Jane Smith. What do I care about anything else? Well, if that easement was a separate document and isn't in the deed, you're not going to be looking for that because it wasn't purchased by Jane. It was purchased by the predecessor of Jane. And so you miss that. That's why we go back 50 years to 100 years, depending on where we are. That's why we look at that stuff because it's important.
I think too, like being able to research what's allowed in your neighborhood. I mean, I know here I'm on a dead-end street and my plot is agricultural, so I can have a certain amount of horses and that sort of thing. But every other plot here is residential. And even though the lady across the street has land with a horse and everything, I think her designation is a little bit different than ours. And we're the only ones that can shoot coyotes, apparently, because we have livestock. Not that I am for that at all, but we have to be careful. If we are also looking at, let's say you have a certain number of animals. I know a lot of cities actually have a limit to the amount of dogs that you can have. For example, it's usually four. And then you have to apply for a certain license if you want to have more. You have to have like a personal kennel thing or something. I mean, there's just so many little odds and ends that people don't think about.
Absolutely. And if you live in the city of Worcester, there's only two dogs. So, it all depends on where you live geographically. But yeah, it's the exact same thing in my house. Across the street is apartment buildings, and you can have multifamilies. On my side of the street, you can't have multifamilies, but I can have racing pigeons. So, fun facts is you definitely should be looking at what you're zoned for, what your intent is when you're making these purchases. So, certainly that's something that you and or your attorney need to look at, and you need to be able to understand how to read it because it doesn't necessarily say that when you look at a CML. And that's one of the things that people also forget about is why would I do a CML?
So, explain what a CML is.
It's a certificate of municipal liens. It's basically from the town or city in which you live in, and it's a breakdown of assessments. So, is there any betterments that need to be done on the block, and have they assessed you certain things? It's also your real estate taxes and your water and sewer. What you want to do is you want to record that document at the time that you're recording the deed, because it's going to show how much you have to prorate your taxes. Um, it will help you with the water and sewer. If there's an outstanding balance on your water and sewer, you want to make sure that that's paid by the previous owner and then you're not taking that on. If you don't record this document at the time that you're doing this, then, oh well, you're on the hook for whatever the previous owner had and didn't pay. So you want to make sure that you're recording it and that you're prorating it based on the day that you're actually closing.
And what about an inspection?
The inspections are always good things because people don't bother to do inspections and then they go, but I want to sue them because they didn't tell me. Well, did they not tell you or did you not ask? We have to start with that premise. And then assuming that, okay, well, where was it in writing that they agreed to these terms or that they did this or that they misrepresented because we don't know. But certainly, again, if you don't inspect, you don't know because unless you're a home inspector, you have no idea what's behind the walls. And that's why you hire somebody to do that because unfortunately people will come to me and go, well, they tied this up and it's jerry rigged and look at these wires are all loose and they're not even connected to one another and they're starting a fire. That's why you have a home inspector.
I
Because a lot of times they're making representations says take the house as is.
Right. And I have to say, every time that I've had a home inspector, it is worth 10 times what they charge. Because I didn't buy two places because he didn't know what was behind the walls in certain situations, but he knew that it didn't look good on the outside of the walls. And he could only guess. And so they do it every day. Like some of them do like two inspections a day. And so they've seen everything and they've got stories. And it's just like that old movie, The Money Pit, right? You move in and all of a sudden everything needs to be fixed. And it's scary. And honestly, sometimes you don't even know that there's a problem with your house. If you've owned your house for 10 years, we did the inspection and we were forced to go in and treat for termites. Um, we didn't have termites, but there were some termites in the past, I guess, and they just wanted to make sure. But I guess in New England, you either have had termites, you currently have termites, or you're going to have termites. And that's just the area that we live in. But that was something that I never even thought about. And that was something that, we had to fix.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of things that come up, but and talk about termites and things of that nature. The reality is when you're owning a condo or you're buying a condo, there's so much more because not only do you have to worry about whether it's studs in or studs out, that's a whole language that I know you're going to ask me about, but that's what that language that they use. And that's what I'm going to ask you. Well, is it studs in or studs out? And you're going to go, huh?
Yeah, I don't know. What does that mean?
So it means whether or not you're responsible. So studs in is you're responsible from anything from the studs in the wall inside, you're solely responsible for as the homeowner. Studs out means that you're responsible for exterior damage to the condo association and that part of your premises. So again, that's what I'm going to look at because now I need to know, is it going to be the condo association's liable, or is it going to be the homeowner liable? And so again, those are language, the terms that we're going to use that's going to be in the condo doc. So again, if you're buying a condo and you're not looking at the documentation, the bylaws, the rules and regulations, the master deed, all of these things are going to give you information, the insurance, the budget. Those are documents that are absolutely mandatory for a condo because you need to know what those numbers are going to look like.
It's true. And like I used to own two different properties in condo situations where there was a board, and it's helpful to even find out what are the future projects, because you might have the fees today as they are, but then they have something called an assessment, and those are for special projects, and it could be an extra $500 a month, or whatever it is, depending on the size of the condo association and the project.
Absolutely. That's something that, again, we're going to look at. We're going to go over and make sure that you at least understand your rights. It's my job to educate you. It's your job to make the decision once you're educated.
Right. And you can argue that, well, you don't know what you don't know. And that's why you hire an attorney, because they do know. I mean, there's just a list of questions that you guys ask, and you have a checklist of things that need to be done, and you really look out for your clients.
Absolutely. And that, I mean, those are just things that we see the end result of if you don't ask. Because if you don't ask, oh, there's a betterment. Well, I just moved in the condo 2 months ago. I didn't know about this. Well, was it in the purchase and sale? Did we say that the seller didn't know about any betterments? Did we go to the condo association? Did we ask them? Those are all questions that again I'm going to go with. It might be too late and you might just be stuck with the betterment assessment and you might be footing the bill, or it might be, hey, that person did something wrong and we need to go after them.
Absolutely. So these are all fantastic points that you're making and things that we're looking at. You should write a book about this, by the way. But like, are there any final parting words that you might have, or if there were other points you wanted to make? Let me know because this has all been very eye-opening, and especially for me. I mean, there's still stuff that it just goes to show, like I've been involved in so many real estate deals. I think for just a regular person, a regular Joe who's not in the business of buying and selling all the time. And there's still stuff I learn all the time.
I think there's I think there's a wealth of knowledge that I could tell you and impart on everybody every day. But the reality is I do have a book and I'm happy to give it out to anyone if they are interested in doing it. I have a book for buyers and I have a book for sellers and what the pitfalls are in each of those. So if you're interested, I'm sure we can post a link.
Absolutely. Is the book free?
If you ask properly, yes.
I'm going to ask really nicely on behalf of everyone. Please give us the free link. I think that's fantastic. And of course, you have a book for both of those things.
Well, I try to educate everyone, and that's a nice way to educate my clients and anybody that's looking to just get into the business of buying a house and selling a house and what are the pitfalls because they do come up quite often.
And I assume it's not going to replace having your own personal attorney, but it will give you the basics and kind of scratch the surface on the wealth of knowledge that you've accumulated over the past 30 years.
I hope so.
Well, thank you so much for coming on today, Nicole. I'm sure everyone out there really appreciates this. And, we look forward to hearing from you next week, and you get another interesting topic for us as usual. And yeah, hey, everyone be careful out there with that spring market, right, Nicole?
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. And thanks again, Nicole, for coming on the show.